StrayAllDay.com.
You're now tuned into the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day, to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you expected to achieve has yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative. That is the go-getter energy that moves any one of us, including yourself, to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. And then we put all this together into a series of frameworks, approaches, insights, strategies, and techniques, all underneath the umbrella of one unifying philosophy that is called work on your game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic is, we are on part 7, next to last issue in this series here. We are talking about 25 false beliefs that you have about money that are keeping you broke, putting you in a bad spot financially. Before we get started, let me remind everybody, I send out a text message every single morning, free of charge, guaranteed to have you focused, sharp, and on point to start your day. I call it the daily motivation. Here's all you got to do to get it. Text me at my number, 305-384-6894. And every day when I send out the daily motivation, because you're a member of my text community, you'll be getting that message straight to your phone, free of charge. Normal text messaging rates apply. That number is down below in the description to this episode, by the way. Secondly, Work on Your Game University. That is the place where all my coaching, all my courses, all my high level training is at. So any of you wondering, is there another level to go to past this show and past the text messages? The answer is yes. And the answer to the answer is workonyourgameuniversity.com. That's workonyourgameuniversity.com. That's where you take your next step and go to the next level in your work on your game journey. With all that said, let's get right into the points here. We're picking up on point number 19, 25 false beliefs you have about money that are keeping you broke. Number 19, I don't have time to focus on finances. Now, this is one that, as opposed to yesterday's episode, we took a couple things that were actually true, but people believe them for the wrong reasons. Today, we are starting with one that people believe, but you should not believe. You don't have time to focus on finances. There are people who do actually believe this, and they say this. You can take finances out of this and swipe in any other thing that you know you need to be focused on in your life, but for whatever reason, you're not focusing on it, and you're using the excuse of you don't have time. Understand, first of all, let's refute this. Yes, you do have time. All right, you have the time to focus on this. You're just not utilizing your time to focus on it. You're utilizing your time to focus on other things. Now, every one of us has the same amount of time, right? It's just a matter of how we are allocating our time that makes a difference between person A and person B. The difference between me and you is how I decide to allocate my time versus how you decide to allocate your time. The difference between you and the next person is the exact same thing. What you do with your time versus what they do with their time. So it's just a matter of how we decide to use our time. That's the only thing that makes a difference. If you don't have time to focus on finances, that means that nobody's focusing on your finances, because I guarantee nobody else is going to make time to focus on your finances if you ain't doing it. Unless they're focusing on your finances in order to steal from you or do something unscrupulous to you that you probably don't want to happen, which, assuming that that's not happening, that means nobody's focusing on your finances, which means you're probably not doing as well as you could in that area because there's no focus on it. Remember that focus is a force multiplier, folks. The longer and stronger you can maintain focus on anything, the better you will be in or at that thing. Anything you focus on, you tend to get better at. Why? Because the human brain is the strongest tool known to man. Your brain is the strongest asset that you have available at your disposal. So if you put your brain on something, i.e. focus on it, you'll usually produce better results at it than when you were not focused on it. Simple as that. So even if you have something like actually, let me back up before I even get to that. You don't have time to focus on finances. Again, nobody's focusing on your finances, or again, they're focusing on it and they're focusing on it in a way that's probably not going to serve you the way that you want them to focus on your finances, not the way that's going to help you have more of them. You don't want someone focusing on your finances that ain't you. And that puts you in a precarious position. If somebody else knows more about what's going on with your money than you do, and they realize it, if that person ever has a reason, they don't even have to be a bad person, but they ever have a reason that they can justify to do something bad, they will do it and use it against you simply because they know that you ain't paying attention. It's like if you're a boss at a job and the employees realize that you're not checking on how much time they take when they go on break, then what's supposed to be a 30-minute break will start to become a 45-minute break. And then it'll become an hour break, then becomes an hour and a half break. And since you're not paying attention, well, why would they not take advantage? Again, doesn't mean that they're bad people. Doesn't mean that they're lazy. It just means that human beings respond to incentives, everybody, including you. Human beings respond to incentives. So when you give people an incentive to take advantage of you, again, they don't have to be a bad person to take you up on that incentive and take advantage of you simply because you made yourself a victim. Remember that there are no victims in life. I mean, you made yourself available, rather. There are no victims in life. There are only volunteers. You volunteer yourself sometimes by simply abdicating your responsibility. It's not that you came out and said, hey, everybody take advantage of me. It's that you abdicated responsibility, which leaves you open to be taken advantage of. This is the way that life works. This is the way that human nature works. And even if you think you are the most upstanding, most honest person on the planet, chances are you're probably not. And chances are you have probably at times taken advantage of someone who left themselves open to be taken advantage of. You might not look at it that way. You may not remember it. Maybe you have even blocked it out of your mind, but you've probably done it. There's 90% chance that you've done it. There are maybe 5% of people on the planet who would never do anything like that. And there are 5% of people who always do stuff like that. They go and manufacture opportunities to do things like that. The other 90% of us, our morality is flexible, meaning we won't do it most of the time, but if the opportunity presents itself and we can give ourselves a good enough justification, we'll do it. All right. So there's a 90% chance that you fit into that category. Everybody get what I'm saying here? So if you're not paying attention to your finances, you don't have time to not pay attention to your finances, because the last thing you want to have in life is in the micro. You don't want to be at the end of the month, and you don't want to be at the end of the money and still have more month, rather. You don't want that to happen. Some of you may be in that situation on a consistent basis. And we just talked about this in yesterday's episode. So you already know your assignment. So you should have already done it by the time you're hearing this. And you don't want to be at the end of money with more life left to live. Because then what are you going to do? All right, now you got an issue. Now you got to go start working again when you were supposed to be retired. Now you have to become dependent on kids, dependent on the government, dependent on some type of assistant, depending on charitable donations in order for you to survive for the rest of your life, what's supposed to be your golden years, because you ran out of money, but there's still more life, or you ran out of money and there's still more month. You don't want to be in this situation. So any of you who has found yourself in this situation ever, never use the excuse that you don't have the time to focus on finances, because what happens if you have a whole bunch of time but no finances? So what we need to do is flip this equation the other direction. Okay. So even if you have a financial advisor, you have an accountant, you have a trusted person who manages money on your behalf, even if you have this, you need to know exactly what they're doing, why and how they're doing it, and you need to understand it. Doesn't mean that person cannot help you. All right. These people, if they're smart people and they know what they're doing and you trust them, they absolutely can help you. So utilize them, but you should know what's going on. They should be explaining to you what's going on. As a matter of fact, they should insist that you know what's going on, even if they are handling everything. So if you're saying that you don't have time to focus on finances, at the same time, you don't have the money that you want, something has to give. All right, you can't have both problems at the same time. Let me say that again. You cannot have both of these problems at the same time, of not having time and also not having money. You can't have both. Now, you can have one of them as an issue. You can have a whole bunch of money and no time, or a whole bunch of time and no money, but you can't have no money and no time. All right, you can't have both of those problems at the same time. There's an issue there. We call that double jeopardy. You don't want to be there. So either sacrifice the time that you're giving to other things. I would suggest you sacrifice the time you're giving to other things and find some time to focus on finances, because those other things, are they worth the money? I would bet that they're not, simply because you ain't got the amount that you want. So something is costing you time, but it's not producing the money, right? So what are those things? Get rid of those and take that time back and focus on the money. All right, do not let this continue to be the circumstance in your life. All right, time you spend focusing on finances will allow you to position yourself to have more finances. And with that money, guess what you can do now? You can buy yourself more time. You can hire other people, software, things, etc., that can save you time, so that now you have the money and the time at the same time. So you see how all that can work? Good. Point number 20. We are talking here today. We are part 7 of this series, 25 false beliefs you have about money that are keeping you broke. Number 20. I have a family to support. Therefore, I cannot afford anything new financially. So this is the reasoning of the person who knows that there are some things that they could do financially that would probably put them in a better space, but their challenge is, well, I have a family. And a family could mean I have a spouse and children to support. It could mean I have a spouse to support. It could mean I have children to support. It could mean my grandma. It could mean my siblings or parents that I'm financially responsible for. It could mean a niece or nephew that I take care of, whatever the situation may be. I have a family that I need to take care of. Therefore, I cannot afford to do anything new financially. And this is the thing. And even though the new thing I could do financially would help me generate more income that I need, I can't do it because I'm already responsible for a bunch of other things already. All right, so this is another one of those circular reasoning issues where the problem is created by the thing that you say you can't do, but then the problem is perpetuated by for the exact same reason. So then you're in this hamster wheel that you can't get out of, or at least you think that you can't get out of. The good news is you're listening to the Work on Your Game Masterclass. I'm going to help you get out of it. First of all, if you have a family, you don't have a choice but to afford new things financially. If you have a family, you don't have a choice but to position yourself to be able to afford new things financially. All right. Your family will need things and somebody's going to have to pay for them. And if you're the person who is saying, I'm responsible for my family, I'm responsible for supporting them, then guess who's going to be responsible for those new things your family's going to need? That will be you. You probably already know that. So if you have kids, they're going to need new things financially. Okay. Whether you want them to need them or not, they're going to need them. All right. So your family's not going to need things from you on your schedule when it's convenient for you. They're just going to need them, and you got to make it your schedule for it to make sense. All right. I have a child who's not even a year old as of this recording. He's already gone through several pairs of shoes, socks, sets of clothes, a living room full of toys, and he ain't even a year old yet. All right. I mean, things have already come and gone. All right. He's already outgrown stuff already. If you have a significant other, all right, we adults need things too, right? We go through stuff too, right? Do we not? We change careers, we change cars, we move to different homes, we buy stuff on Amazon, we eat food every day. There's always new things that we will need to afford financially. And any of you who finds yourself in a responsible position as far as financially for other human beings, whoever they happen to be, you understand that those needs do not come at convenient times. Can we agree? So if your current circumstances do not allow you to expand financially, then that's all the more reason why you need to focus on how you can expand financially so that you will be able to deal with the expanding needs of your family and the expanding needs of the people who you're responsible for, whoever they are. All right. The excuse is the reason. And many of you don't call your reasons excuses, but I'm calling them excuses here. Your excuse is the reason. If you stop allowing your excuse to slow you down and keep you from doing what you say that you want to do, then you'll probably get a lot more things done. But you can't keep telling yourself, well, I can't do this and I can't do that and I can't do this thing because those are the exact reasons why you need to do it. All right. So everything you're telling yourself, well, I can't do something, that's the exact reason why you need to do it. We talked about this in episode 25, 26. Your excuse is your reason. That was a few months back. So if you haven't listened to that episode, go to workonyourgamepodcast.com, where you may still be able to find it in the feed upon which you are listening to this episode. Moving on to point number 21. Today's top, and one more thing about point number 20. This is what ownership is about. Taking ownership of a situation does not mean that you step in and say, I got this, when all the ducks are lined up and everything seems to be working in your favor and you know you can handle it. The time that you take responsibility and ownership is when you're not sure how you're going to handle it, but you also can see ain't nobody else going to handle it, and you're the leader. Leader is the person who steps up and takes the baton, even when they're not sure how far they can run or if they can help the team win the race, but they take it anyway because they're taking ownership. That's the mindset that I want you to have here. And again, this starts with the mindset. Then you will figure out how to do it. Mindset first, skill set second. Number 21 here. Topic again today, we are on part 7 of 8. False beliefs you have about money that are keeping you broke. Number 21, I have made money mistakes in the past and I don't want to make any more money mistakes. This is another common excuse that needs to become your reason. Again, listen to episode 25, 26. The excuse is the reason. This is, again, another one of those. I made money mistakes in the past. I don't want to make mistakes in the future. I've heard this one before. Any of you who's in sales, you have probably heard this one before. And here's the thing. Somebody says this to you when you are in sales, you better learn how to deal with this complaint. This is not even an objection. We won't even call it an objection. You better learn how to deal with this complaint, because if you don't, then you're going to have people talk themselves into talking you out of sales for a lot of your career. It's going to cost you a lot of sleepless nights of sales that you should have closed that you didn't close. If somebody comes up with this one right here. I made money mistakes in the past. I don't want to make more money mistakes. If you say this to me, here's my answer to that. Good. All right, this is a good mindset to have. I appreciate that you have that mindset that you made mistakes in the past. You don't want to make mistakes in the future. I made mistakes in the past too, and I don't want to make mistakes in the future either. So we're on the same page with that. All of us have made mistakes in all areas of life, and we don't want to do it again. So what do? What we do to avoid making the same mistakes in the future, or even mistakes that we haven't made before, is what? We get smarter, we educate ourselves, we get other smart people around us. And why do we do that? We do that so that we don't have to make all the mistakes in the future, so that we can learn from the mistakes that have already been made, either by ourselves or by others, so that we can be more efficient moving forward, keeping in mind that we do not have unlimited time with which to make every single mistake. So this is a great mindset to have, of not wanting to make mistakes. At the same time, it does not mean that we will avoid all mistakes, but if we address this desire the right way, we will make fewer mistakes, which is exactly what we want. But at the same time, you cannot ever, ever, ever use this as a reason to do nothing, which is what a lot of people do. A lot of people have a whole laundry list of excuses that they call reasons to do nothing and stay in the same spot that you're in, even though you know staying in the same spot is the exact thing that you don't want. How many of you at some point this year has been on the brink of doing something different than what you were doing because you knew you needed to, but then when it was time for you to actually do it, it was time for you to actually pull the trigger and cross the threshold into doing the new thing, you allowed, and yes, you allowed this, your subconscious mind to talk you back into the space that you were already in the day before, the space that you already knew you need to get out of. How many of you have done that just this year at least one time? Most of you have done this at least one time so far this year. Something you're about to do. But as soon as it was time for you to actually pull the trigger and do the thing and commit, your subconscious mind talked you right back into the place that you were in before, the place that you already knew you needed to leave. And now here you are, some days, weeks, or months later, still in that same spot. And you're probably right now picturing the exact moment when you were about to do something, but you didn't do it because you allowed your subconscious mind to scare you back into your shell of where you were already in, the shell that you knew you needed to get out of. But now you talked yourself back into it, so now it's going to be that much harder to get you out of it again. Doesn't mean it's impossible, but that much harder to get you out of it because you allowed yourself to be talked back into it. So the mistakes that you made in the past, that's one of the fears that your subconscious mind uses to keep you in the same spot. It's one of the fears that, if you read Napoleon Hill's book called Outwitting the Devil, he talks about how the devil, metaphorically, uses that fear to keep people in the habit of drifting, which is not having a clear purpose and not clearly going after that purpose. In other words, not being on purpose. Therefore, drifting and just going wherever the wind blows, which is usually not the direction where most people want to go. Most people don't want to just end up somewhere random. So wanting to avoid mistakes is a good idea. It doesn't mean you're going to avoid all of them. But if you address this desire, again, you will make fewer mistakes, which is exactly what you want. But you have to address it with the right formula. And I'm giving it to you right here on the show. Get around the right people, get the right information and insights, and then execute and get people around you who will push you to execute and hold you accountable to execution so that you can stop talking about what you want to do and actually start doing it, which is a novel concept for some people out here who have spent a lot of time talking and thinking about what you want. But when it comes time to actually do it, you get scared because you're allowing that subconscious mind to talk you back into the comfort zone that you were trying to get out of. Right? And until you can overcome that issue, you're going to keep having the same problems. Now, here's the issue with continuing to have the same problems. And those of you who say, well, that's all right, Dre, I'll keep having the same problems. Eventually, I'll get over it. Well, eventually, you're going to die. So it's a matter of which one's going to happen first. That's actually the thing you really need to be thinking about. But all that said, though, let's recap today's class, which is we're on part 7 of 8 of 25 false beliefs that you have about money that are keeping you broke. Number 19, I don't have time to focus on finances. You have time to focus on finances. Right? You just need to make the time, take that time away from something else that is taking up time but is not producing finances. Because if you don't have time to focus on finances, usually because for some reason you are not creating the finances that you want, you have maybe mentally on some level given up on ever creating those finances. So you find yourself doing busy work, chores, that make you feel like you're doing something because you are being quote unquote productive, but you're not being effective, especially when it comes to the bottom line of producing money, what you need for food, clothing, shelter, and to take care of your family, especially if you're the one in charge of doing so. Number 20, I have a family to support. I can't afford to do anything new financially. If you have a family to support, understand there will always be needs coming from that family, some of them at the most inopportune times, and some of them being the most inconvenient needs. And any of you who's responsible for a family knows exactly what I'm talking about here, which means the worst thing you want to do is be a sitting duck, sitting around waiting for something to happen that you know you're not going to be able to take care of. Instead, you need to take initiative, make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen, and go and invest in something that will put you in a position to where you never have the problem again of not being able to handle something that the people who you are responsible for needs. That's what you don't want. And if you're already in that situation, you know exactly what I mean. If you're not yet in that situation, I'm telling you, you don't want to know what I mean. You want to put yourself in a position to where this is never an issue. Point number 21, I made money mistakes in the past and don't want to make more. This is a good idea. Nobody should want to make mistakes nobody should want to make mistakes. We know that it's inevitable. It's part of the process of growth and learning, but you don't want to make mistakes. As a matter of fact, you can learn from the mistakes that have already been made by you and by others so that you can avoid certain pitfalls because you don't have the time in your life to make every single mistake. All right, there's not enough time for us to make every single mistake. So we have to learn from the mistakes that have already been made so that we don't go and repeat them for no reason when the information on how to avoid that mistake is already there. Again, doesn't mean we're going to avoid all mistakes, but if you address the desire of not wanting to make mistakes right away, you make fewer mistakes, which is exactly what you want. And to avoid mistakes, the easiest way is to get around people who have already made mistakes, who've already seen things, and they can help guide you in the direction that you want to go to where you make fewer mistakes, you waste fewer time, you waste less time, and you get more done in a shorter period. If that sounds like what you need to do, here's what you do. Text me, tell me the best point you got from today's class. You also enter into my text community when you do so and get my daily motivation. My number is 305-384-6894. And work on your game university. All right, you want help on making fewer mistakes or avoiding certain mistakes that you think may be coming on the way, but you're not quite sure how to avoid them, or you just want to avoid the mistake of trying to do everything by yourself and end up failing because nobody has the skills to do everything by themselves. Go to workonyourgameuniversity.com. You can get access to all of our courses, all of our trainings on one level of the university that you can do that at your own pace by yourself independently. Or if you would like to be coached directly by me, the way you can do that is by hopping on a call with me or somebody on my team by going to workonyourgameuniversity.com. Just click the button right there on that page. We'll get you scheduled on the call. Tomorrow, final episode of this series. Work on your game. Dre, all